Greetings, futuristic scribes, and welcome aboard the AI Writers Connection. My name is Marigold, and I'll be your navigator through the middle grade and young adult template framework in Claude today. If you've just arrived on our channel, we're your dedicated base station for navigating the vast cosmos of creative writing, honing your skills, and charting your course toward authorship. Today we're launching into the heart of the unknown, the creation of a middle grade or young adult novel. So, ready your literary starships, gear up your imagination engines, and let's commence this journey. Embarking on this mission might seem as intimidating as deciphering an alien language, but remember, all great voyages commence with a single light year. Today, we're transversing the nebulous void of ideas, from brainstorming to drafting your final chapters, creating a gripping tale that will captivate your readers and transport them to another world. Surviving in the landscape of middle grade or young adult novels starts with a sturdy foundation, your starbase, if you will. Today, you'll initiate 20 unique story premises integrating classic themes and tropes of the genre. This is the arena of limitless possibilities. Dare to venture into the uncharted territories of your creativity. Once your premise takes form, you will design your narrative blueprint, or, in our metaphor, your star map. You're going to develop dynamic characters, outline intriguing settings, mood and tone that will hook your readers. Don't forget to plan for the sequels. After all, space is infinite. Next, you'll initiate a system check on your star map, refining it for clarity, consistency, and overall strength. You'll delve deeper into your characters, enriching their personalities, motivations, and histories. Then, it's time to explore the cosmic history that shaped your world, constructing detailed backstories for your characters, your setting, and the lore that underpins your civilization. With a thorough understanding of your world's past, you'll create a detailed narrative journey. Identify pivotal points like the inciting incident, debates, and transformative character moments. From there, you'll craft comprehensive chapter summaries, ensuring each segment of your narrative pulls readers deeper into your story, like a spacecraft caught in the gravity well of a mysterious planet. Finally, it's time to narrate your epic saga, perfecting the prose to bring your universe to life. Remember, you're the cosmic conductor, creating harmonious suspense, conflict, and resolution melodies throughout your story. So, are you ready to venture into a story like no other? A tale, you the author, imbues with your creative flair? If so, then sit back and let's see where the story takes us. Wanted to show you this step one, just so you see kind of where we're starting. Now, this might look familiar to many of you because I use a very similar prompt in some of my other sessions. So let me go ahead and go over to Claude. I am actually going to upload the full Word document with all 8 of my prompts. Now, you could load them one at a time, or you could copy and paste all 8 of them in your message area right here in Claude at once. So again, there are multiple ways for you to engage Claude. Today, I'm just going to demonstrate how you can hit the little paperclip. You can go in and you can grab your template, which mine is the middle grade story template, and I can ask to have that open. So as you can see, I just attached the docx, and I am going to ask Claude to go ahead and proceed with step 1. Now, you will notice that I did not spell out the number 1. I used the numeral or the number 1. I found that Claude gets a little cranky if you spell out 1, and sometimes the AI doesn't give me what I want. So I noticed that with Claude, I consistently need to use step 1 and not spell out 1 or 2 or 3. Now, when it comes to Chat GPT-4, I can spell out 1 or use the number, and it doesn't matter either way. So let's go ahead and see what Claude gives us today. So it lets me know that there are 20 premises for middle grade / young adult novels in the fantasy and dystopian genre. Now, one of the things that I found when I was doing these types of prompts prior is that sometimes Claude will give me premises that have already been previously published. So one of the things that you may want to do is either embed it within your template and ask the AI to ensure that all of the content that is given is original. The other thing you can do is ask Claude, are all of these original? Original non-published and or non-produced concepts. I only want original content. Now, why do you ask that? You want to make sure that what you are working with is not something that the AI has misunderstood and is giving you actual movies or actual book premises. You want something that is not already produced, because if that were your book or your movie, you would not want somebody doing that to your body of work. So let's see what Claude tells me. So to the best of Claude's knowledge, all 20 premises presented are original and have not been previously published or produced. He goes on to state that the premises, he synthesized them using common tropes and themes in the middle grade and young adult fantasy and dystopian fiction, but the specific combinations and plot points have been generated uniquely for this purpose. It does not guarantee absolute originality in fiction concepts or information, but it trying to avoid plagiarizing or copying existing story ideas. And I think that that is important to note, and for people to understand that while it can scrape items or information that is in public domain, which includes, books that are behind a paywall. It includes those books' blurbs. If somebody has ever had a book published and they have a wiki site that talks about the synopsis of a book or a movie, then yeah, the OpenAI sourced data can pull that information from like wiki sites, from Amazon blurbs, from worldwide blurbs, from iBooks and Kobo and Barnes and Noble and other distributors. So keep that in mind. Just because Claude or Chat can pull up information on a book, it can only pull up information that it can scrape in the open public domain. The only thing that it's really fed, at least from my understanding, has been books in public domain. And the last scrape was back in 2021, from what I understand. If y'all have heard something different, please leave me a comment. I would love to research it more if y'all know of other data. So let's go ahead and take a look at these 20 premises. So number 1, in a world where everyone's soulmate's name appears on their wrist at age 12, a girl must embark on a quest to find her soulmate whose name never appeared. Let's see, number 3. In a dystopian world where emotions are banned, a rebellious girl who feels deeply must hide her forbidden feelings while trying to spark a revolution. Now, number 3 kind of sounds like The Giver, but we are talking about a girl protagonist rather than a male. She's trying to spark a revolution. So while it may have some similarities, it's not the same story. And you will notice that a lot of the stories that are out there go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, iBook, Kobo, any of those areas, and start reading some of the blurbs, and you'll find that many of them kind of have the same feel. I mean, how many times has the trope or the underlying premise of, say, Cinderella been redone in movies or within books? And I mean, the answer to that is multiple. So if you were to pull that up and ask, I am sure you would actually see multiple indications of it. Let's look at number 6. When a portal opens between the human world and a magical realm, the daughter of a powerful mage must work with her former enemy to close it before both worlds are destroyed. So number 7, after a teen discovers he is the son of a famous superhero thought to be dead, he must learn to control his newfound powers and live up to his father's legacy. Let's see, number 9. After robots with artificial intelligence integrate into society, a hacker teen works to free them, believing they deserve rights until one betrays her. Oh, look at number 12. After waking up in a future he does not recognize, a teen travels back in time to prevent the accident that put him in cryosleep, threatening his own existence. And number 14, when a girl finds a crashed spaceship with an injured alien aboard, she helps it recover and hides it from the government agents pursuing it. Number 16, in a future where a computer algorithm matches people with ideal careers, a restless girl defies her assigned path to become an artist and inspire others. Let's see, number 17 is kind of interesting. When a teen's online friend turns out to be an advanced AI, she must help it avoid detection as it gains dangerous sentience. So that could actually be interesting. And number 20, when books are blamed for a disastrous virus, a rebel teen secretly trains as a librarian to preserve the world's literature before it's destroyed. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. I might want to play with that one later. Number 19, in a world plagued by deadly pollution, a teen environmental activist stands against corrupt leaders to fight for the planet's future. Now, that could be interesting, but today, I want something with a little bit more sci-fi or fantasy. So let's see, which one do I want to play with? I kind of like the superhero one, or maybe even number 5. In a society where everyone develops magical powers at age 16, a seemingly powerless girl discovers she has rare healing abilities and is recruited by the government to train as a medic. Now, that sounds interesting, but I'm a little bit intrigued by it, but I also want to know what is the obstacle or what is at stake, because right now it kind of sounds like, oh, everything's great and peachy there. I want to tell Claude to proceed to step 2, but I want to know what's at stake for the character when her power of healing is revealed. What's the catch? So let's go ahead and ask. So it's letting me know that here's the 500 to 600 word synopsis using premise number 5 in the fantasy genre, The Healer Chronicles. So here it talks about how in a world where everyone manifests magical abilities at age 16, shy and withdrawn Evie dreads her upcoming birthday, worried her powers will never emerge. Diagnosed as broken by doctors, Evie believes that she is powerless. When her 16th birthday arrives, her parents grow concerned as there has been no powers awakened in her. Just as they begin seeking medical treatment, she discovers her hands can heal wounds and illnesses. Thrilled but confused, she hides her new power, fearing that she may be labeled a freak. Why would she be labeled a freak? Now, is this unusual healing power, it's stated that it's rare, so I'm kind of interested to know why she would think that she's freakish. Is it because everybody has telekinesis? So that is an area that if I were fleshing this out more, I would actually have a chat with Claude. So let's see. During a deadly virus outbreak, Evie secretly uses her healing powers to save lives, but exposes her abilities. So you know what? I am going to ask, because I'm a little bit curious. Why does she feel that her ability makes her a freak? What's the downside of her ability? Why is it so unusual? These are kinds of questions that you will want to ask the AI when you are trying to figure out what is going on with your story. Here again, it says you raise a good point. Here is an updated synopsis that provides more content around her healing. So she believes that she's broken. She believes that she's powerless. However, her hands can heal wounds and sickness. Because she has no attack or defense magic. And maybe that's what the norm is within the world that she lives in. weapon. So to be able to heal isn't something that she can attack or use as defense magic. So she hides her healing powers, fearing that she'll be labeled a freak because since most magic manifests as a battle skill, and she does not see this as a battle skill, which is kind of interesting considering that if somebody's injured on the battlefield, you may need a healer to be able to help those people. So thrilled but confused, she hides her healing powers, fearing that she'll be labeled a freak. Then let's see, a deadly virus outbreak occurs, and she uses her healing abilities to secretly save lives, but inadvertently, she exposes herself. And this is where it comes into play. The government takes notice, recruiting Evie by force and puts her on a covert team of healers trained to serve in the war, since healers are rare and valuable. Maybe it's something that they don't really talk about, and it could be interesting to see how they treat their healers. Maybe they become second-class citizens, or maybe they're stripped of all of their rights. Remember, this is dystopian, so we could make this anything that we want it to be. Now, one of the things I do want to point out is that I asked for some premise information on book 2 and book 3, and as you can see, Claude failed to do that. So before we move forward to step 3, I'm going to go ahead and ask Claude to provide the premises for book 2 and 3. I'm going to tell him, you didn't follow all instructions earlier. Let's see, because you didn't provide the premises for books 2 and 3. Please do so now. Let's also say, make sure they continue Evie's story. So we're going to make this a trilogy. So let's see what Claude does. Now, just because I get the premises for 2 and 3 does not mean that I'm going to want to go with those. I might find that if I were to write this, I might find that maybe I want to do something different in book 2 or 3. Ideally, I would finish book 1. I would then take a look at the little premise that I got for book 2 and book 3, and then I would flesh it out. Now, if you notice, it actually gave me the little premise for book 1, which is in a world where everyone manifests attack and defense magic at 16. A girl with the rare gift of healing must escape government forces who want to use her powers as a weapon. So, okay, there's where our stake is, because the first premise really didn't have any raised stakes or obstacles. So she has a rare magic. She's trying to escape the government, and she's trying to escape them because they want to use her power as a weapon. So that's interesting, and that kind of raises the stakes for her. So I definitely like that so much better than what Claude gave me originally. And how did we come to this? It was asking some questions, asking what the stakes were. Make sure you're having those conversations with Claude or GPT or any other AI that you are working with. Again, treat the AI as a resource, because that is exactly what it is. The AI is not writing it for you. You are the one that's having to guide it. Now, it can spit out ideas at you, and you can play around with them. You can rearrange stuff, mash premises together, and you can keep prompting and asking questions. But ultimately, the story that is generated has to come from you. So you need to have input, and that input is kind of having a heavy hand in micromanaging your story. So let's look at book 2. After exposing the government's sinister plans for her healing magic, Evie and her friends go on the run, and they're pursued by powerful forces determined to capture them. Okay, well, that could definitely be a premise for book 2, because it's promising a lot of action and adventure. I would be okay with that, just as a basic premise, because that could unfold into any type of a story with any number of obstacles that will feed the overall plot. So let's look at book 3. It says The Rise of the Healers. Evie rallies and trains a small army of rebellious healers, preparing for the ultimate showdown with the government that will determine the future of their rare magical gifts. So it does ask me to let the AI know if those premises are what I'm looking for. Now, it does talk about the overarching story and setup for the next installment. One thing I want to ask is, what are some of the reaching threads or trope and themes I can use for this trilogy across all 3 books in this series. Now, why did I ask that? Because each book is going to have its own arch or storyline, and all 3 of them will have that and have a goal that needs to be performed. And it will have those obstacles. It will have stakes. It will have ups and downs, twists, turns, and reversals in it, different tropes, different themes. But we need some common threads and tropes and themes across the whole story arc. So the other thing that I can ask for is to provide some of the themes and tropes that might be beneficial to this concept. So I went ahead and asked, what are some of the overreaching threads or tropes and themes I can use for this trilogy across all 3 book series? Now I'm going to ask that, see what comes back. Now the other thing that you can do is once you pick something, you can also ask Claude to provide you with, say, a series tagline, a series blurb, and a series description, as well as a series logline. Now, why would you do that? Because if you're actually publishing to Amazon or say to iBooks or Kobo or any of those areas, and you are loading this as a trilogy, and you have all of your books done, then you're going to want to set up a series page. And by setting up a series page, you can then use the series blurb, description, tagline, logline. You can use all of that on your series page, which, use the AI as your resource. Go ahead and have it generate something now, just so that you can use it as a starting base. And then after, the stories are done, then you can ask it to provide that information again or revise it. But doing it here right now kind of gives you an idea of that broader stroke. So let's take a look. Some of the threads: Evie's journey to understand, control, and accept her healing abilities, the moral dilemma of the healing abilities can be twisted for harm, her changing dynamics, the government escalating threats. Those are all really valid. They are broad strokes that we could drill down into, which I'm okay with those threads. Now, if I were actually going to dig into this story, I would probably add a few more threads to this, because I would want a well-rounded story. So under tropes, found family, Evie's friends become like her family. It is a coming-of-age story because she matures through all this. She is the shy girl who is a reluctant hero and grows into those shoes. She is the chosen one. Rebellion is another trope. And then themes that take place across all 3 books would be corruption of power, discrimination, freedom versus security, trust, and the balance between good and evil. Claude does ask me if I want him to expand or modify these suggested elements across the trilogy in any specific way. I'm going to tell him that I'd like to see the threads plant seeds and then grow across all of the books. And I want all of them to be resolved in the 3rd book. So thanks for asking, Claude. I like all of these, and I'd like to see them all added to the series story arc, and I'd like you to build upon them in each book. I could give Claude more information, which I would do if I were taking this from beginning to end and actually using this as a story. But today, this is just a demonstration. So I've asked him to go ahead, says, understood, I'll make sure to incorporate all of the overarching threads, tropes, and themes you mentioned. Now, the other things that you could do, you could ask it to add motifs, maybe symbolism. Let's ask him to do that too. Let's add some and motifs that fit this concept and make them arc across the series. Revise the list to add them. So let's see what it comes up with now. Now, why am I straying from my template? My template has a lot of really good information in it, but it is not going to house everything that you need within a story, because that would require you to have conversations with Claude or Chat or whatever AI you are working with. Let's see. Please list out the symbolism and the motifs, just as you did the tropes, themes, and threads. Now, keep in mind that the AI is only reading your content and is trying to ascertain from your words exactly what you're asking for. This kind of helps me because now I know that Evie has a garden that represents her growing healing powers. She has woven friendship bracelets. She has shared meals around the table. So she has quite a few things that she does for symbolism. And these are really cool things that could be incorporated into the story to really show us more about who she is as a character. It would not only help to move the plot forward and to build the world that she's living in, but it would also allow us to develop her more as a character, as well as maybe some of her side characters or supporting characters. Motifs are here. Now we have our symbolism, our motifs. Up above, we have our themes, tropes, and threads. So now that we have all of those items, I'm going to ask Claude to wrap all of that content up into the concept and move on to the next step. So let's say add all of those items / examples, and I'm going to list them out: threads, tropes, symbolism, and motifs to the concept. And then I want you to proceed with the next step. And let's see if Claude remembers what that next step is. Now, one of the things that I found when prompting Claude is that if I tell it to go to the next step or any other verbiage, sometimes it'll hit it, sometimes it doesn't. I seem to find more success when I use the word proceed. Now, in ChatGPT and Notion, I find that I can use a lot more variation or synonyms to the word proceed, and Chat and Notion tend to know what I'm saying. But in Claude, for some reason, proceed seems to be the word that works best for me. So let's see what it gives us now. So it let me know that it has added the full list of overarching threads, tropes, themes, symbolism, and it's letting me know that here's the updated summary. And so I have the series overview. It is listing all of the tropes, themes, symbolisms, motifs, and it's ready to proceed to the next step. It's asking me, I'm now ready to proceed to the next step with this expanded concept outline. Please let me know if you'd like me to modify anything. I'm going to say modifying is not needed at this time, but I'd now like you to move to proceed to the next step in this process. So let's see where it takes us. We had already done step 1. We had done step 2, because step 1 was to write the 20 premises. Step 2, we picked a premise and then we kind of asked some questions. Now we are in step 3, which is actually to evaluate the current synopsis for any strengths, weaknesses, and vagueness or problem areas. Here it's saying provide more detail on Evie's backstory and personality for discovering her powers, flesh out motivations, backstory. All of these suggestions are something that if I were taking this body of work forward, I would actually go in and provide more information on every single one of these. The other thing that I could do is ask Claude to give me real-time examples that would bode well with this concept and the world that I'm creating. So I can say, please give me real-time story examples that would enhance this story, or let's say this concept. So let's see. Remember, this is still step 3. And I've just asked it to give me more detailed information. And once I get that and it shows me how I can strengthen things, it says, show Evie as a child. So that would actually be a flashback. Do I really want a flashback right now? That can be sprinkled in at some point. I have relationships that I can add between her and Gray and Jax. Again, I can have internal conflict, world building, and it's given me some examples of things that I can take a look at. All of these suggestions will go to help strengthen my body of work, and I could actually flesh each one of these out more. Even in the world building, when it talks about the anti-government rebel group, I could flesh that out and know more about the group, what they stand for, what type of attacks they have performed, where they're moving today. These are all things that would help me be able to flesh out this story. Because I can't sit here and do this for hours upon hours to show you how I flesh something out, I can talk to it a little bit, but I will need to move forward with this. Otherwise, this is going to be an extremely, extremely long video. But at some point, if I have enough people who are interested in seeing me take something from start to finish and maybe record it over a course of, say, 48 hours, I could actually do that in a different video, or maybe even muster up enough courage to maybe show it through, live streaming, which I haven't done yet. So that could be interesting in itself. But let's go ahead and add all of these items to the current synopsis and write the revision. Make it at least 1,000 words or more. Now, why do I do that? Because I originally asked for, say, a 500 to 600 word one. So now I would like a longer one just so that I could take a look at it, especially since we've added some additional content in there. Remember, we are still only on step 3 of 8. Now, when Claude tells you that it's given you like 1,176 words, it's like, wow, that's cool. It's telling me the word count. Yeah, don't trust him, because that's not always true. It might be close to that, or it might be shy like 300 words. It's still giving me words. So we'll take a look at the full file once it stops writing. But it has given me a title, which is The Healer Chronicles, which you can definitely change that because that's really generic. Book 1 is Awakening. There are lots of book 1s called Awakening, so that could change too. So here it has given me my series premise, which is pretty cool because now I can use that, I can flesh it out more, and I can put that on my series page. Synopsis for book 1. It tells you ever since she was young, this shy girl has always preferred reading books, messing with her plants and herbs rather than playing with children, and she feels like an outcast. And she was diagnosed as broken for her lack of magic. And so, she's dreading her 16th birthday. So it kind of paints a picture of what her world looks like now. And then when her healing powers manifest, sets her up for the catalyst that's going to catapult her in the brave new world. And then she has that decision to make. Is she going to use her powers for good, or how is she going to use her powers? Is she going to help people? Is she going to announce them? Is she going to keep them secret? If a secret, why? If she announces them, why? And that all becomes part of the debate. In this step, if you wanted to, you could have asked for Claude to generate it using like the Amy Gold template for the romance beats, or you could use the Snyder beat sheet and kind of mash it together with the Lester Dent mystery template. So keep in mind, if there is a specific template that you like to use, and if it is one that Claude is familiar with, you can ask him to actually write it in that format for you if it's easier for you to read it that way. The other thing that you can do is, if Claude is not familiar with the template you like, or if you have created your own template that you're comfortable with, upload just a very basic outline of what your template looks like and ask Claude to follow it. Now, you will have to do that with every single new project because it's only going to keep that information in the thread that you have started right here. So each new thread or story concept, you would have to reintroduce that content. Now that we have this information, you can see definitely it is longer than the original synopsis. So it has added some of this information in here. She meets a charming individual, Erin, and helps her master difficult healing techniques. So she meets somebody who becomes kind of a mentor. Let's see, she pricks her finger on a poisonous plant, symbolic of losing her her naive or innocent nature, which is actually kind of interesting because Erin rescues her using deadly battle magic. It exposes his true intention to shape healers into soldiers, adding that underlying thread. At that point, she realizes that she was foolish to trust him. There's a little bit of tension there that can bode well with internal and external conflict. So I like that those threads have been added now. And that all came from us asking questions about how to enhance the story overall. So let's go ahead and see what Claude will do with the next step. So I've just asked him to proceed to the next step. So let's see if it keeps the order of the steps that we're flowing through. It has kept track of the steps that we're in. Even with all the back and forth that we have done, it is still holding on to my file, which I've actually found with Claude, having a file attached. I think Claude actually does better this way than if I'm uploading each step individually, because I think it has something to fall back on within the structure of that, template or framework. So again, we have our information here. Now, my template actually asks Claude to use first names and surnames, which it failed to do here. The other thing that the template asks is for Claude to use the Myers-Briggs personality types. I like to use those because it gives me an idea of who my characters are. And since I've been using that, gosh, I want to say since about 2012, 2013. So I've been using that method for over 10 years in my writing. And like I said, I'm really familiar with it. Some people use enneagrams, some people use other methodology. I like to use the personality types in the Myers-Briggs, but again, that's my personal choice and it's highly subjective. It's just what makes more sense to me as a writer. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to ask Claude to add in that information, first names, surnames, and I want the Myers-Briggs types to be assigned. And the other thing that I don't see is my 5 descriptor words. So I need the descriptor words on here too. Now I do see that I have ages. I have physical descriptions. It does say that person is feisty, cheeky, outgoing. So it does give me a few of those keywords on what type of a person the individual is. It gives me the magic power. It does give me what the person is motivated by. But what does this person want after being stunned for her mind reading ability? So I don't know what she wants. Again, I feel that Claude failed in that area and needs some additional prompting. Now, Jax, Claude actually said wants to use his technical genius to do good in the world. I kind of feel like Claude paid attention to some areas, but not all. But I need him to follow all of my directions. So this is one of the areas where Claude often fails to adhere to, kind of like an errant child that's not paying attention or only hears half of the direction, whereas ChatGPT-4 will adhere to things more stringently. The other thing that I see that Claude did not do, Claude did not give me archetypes, and I asked for specific archetypes for my supporting characters. And I believe I asked for 10 and I only got 6. Let's ask or tell him you didn't follow all instructions for this step. Please review the steps and try again. Make sure you add all things listed, including the Myers-Briggs. So the Myers-Briggs personality types for the main characters, the archetypes for the supporting characters, and I forgot an E there. That's fun. And let's see what else. I also want all characters need surnames, main and supporting, and add anything else you failed to add the first time around. And let's see. And this is why it's important to know what's on your template and to know exactly what information you're wanting Claude to give you. Now I have my Myers-Briggs. I know that he is 16 years old. I know his description, or her description, excuse me, that she is shy, introverted, loves books and plants. I know what her rare healing power is. I know that she feels like a freak and she's driven by her desire for freedom and a thirst for knowledge. So I feel that that's better. It gives me a better idea of who she is. The thing that he missed again, though, is what happened to the descriptor words. Now, why is that important? That's important because those descriptors actually are used for tone of voice. So that means that depending on the chapter or scene that the character is in, Evie might show a gentle side, a thoughtful side, an idealistic side, empathetic, or principled, whereas Gray might be blunt, reckless, loyal, broody, sarcastic. Now, if I don't like some of these, I know that I can change that before I ever generate any prose. Now, I could make her sassy, I could make her strategic, so I could do anything within that realm. Now, I am going to ask another question. Did you give me 10 supporting characters as indicated in the required instructions, or only 6? Please revise to give me what I asked for. Now, don't be afraid to keep asking, Claude, and you really have to micromanage him. But you know what? It's a lot shorter than actually sitting there and pinning and starting over and over again. So again, here are my supporting characters. Now, what's interesting is that on my supporting character list, Claude actually went a step further and actually gave me Meyer-Briggs for each one. But in addition to the Meyer-Briggs, it also gave me the archetype, like the caregiver, the mentor, the mad scientist, the loyal companion. That's kind of interesting. Now, Trixie does not have personality profile because Trixie is Gray's pet fox. So you can go down the list, and I think this is kind of cool, and I don't mind this at all, because then the archetype will kind of play nice with the personality type and allow each of those to commingle together. Now I'm going to prompt Claude to move to the next step. Now, as you can see, I am actually going back and forth with Claude. That little bit of back and forth that I'm doing is really small compared to how much I go back and forth with Claude when I am actually fleshing something out 100%. I can spend all day long plotting out the actual beats and everything. I can spend hours doing this. Step 5, here's an attempt at writing detailed backstories for the main characters. Now, why is step 5? Why am I asking for detailed backstories? This is something that we already kind of talked about a little bit in around step 3 or so, when we were asking to strengthen the synopsis. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because I need that backstory not only on Evie, but I need it on her ensemble cast, on Gray, on Zoe, on Jax. I also need to know the setting. Where does this take place? I also need to know some of the mythology. I need to know what about this world is intriguing. What kind of legends about ancient healers is kind of interwoven. Now, if I were fleshing this out, I would so want to know more about the mythology behind the lore of the ancient healers. And that would give me more information about the direction I want to take the book. The other thing would also be, I would want to know more about the academy, the secretive government facility. I'd want to know what makes them tick, because the more I know about those different entities or facilities, the more I can expand my story and give the AI more to draw from. Now, that's information that I would need to help prompt Claude to be able to flesh out fully. And some of that would mean that I would need to give Claude additional prompts and maybe even give him more information about what that secretive government looks like, what kind of propaganda, the secret government is spreading. I would want to have more information about the Healer Academy. Are there some people that go to it, and feel that it's prestigious and they're excited? Are there people who return because they are part of families who have always been part of the academy and it's an honor for them, while others feel like they are more like a tribute and they really don't want to be there? I would need to be able to understand all those intricacies to make my story solid. I could ask to expand or modify these backstories to, ingrain this information. What I might do is to please add more information. And let's see if I can spell today. My fingers don't want to type. Pertaining to the Healer Academy. Let's see. Give it a name and some sub branches or departments that handle the different aspects of the faction, such such as research, PR, search, and search and retrieval. So those are all things that I would like to see in there, but I also want to know about the mythology. Also add more about the mythology and tie it to some of the lore and myth surrounding the Salem witches. That'll kind of broaden it a little bit and give a little bit more information. So let's see what it does with that information. And again, if I were fleshing this out, I would add so many more details. So the Academy is the North American Academy of Gifted Youth, which is NAAGY. It was established 30 years ago by the United Government of North America, the UGNA. So the departments are research, education, covert operations, and tracking, because they forcibly recruit rogue healers. So they have a whole faction for that. The Academy could actually be expanded even further to drill down into each one of those. And I would do that if I were fleshing this out. Let's go ahead and ask Claude to add all of this to the concept and proceed to the next step. So again, with your concept, you really need to go back and forth, making sure that you are keeping the AI on track. Chapter outlines. This is one of the areas where Claude can really excel or fall apart. Right now it's saying, I will now proceed to step 6 and provide a 15-chapter outline for the manuscript using the Blake Snyder beat sheet. Now, why is it using that? Because I requested that. And it says, let me know if you need anything else summarized or consolidated before moving forward. Now, at this point, if I had an idea and I thought, oh man, this would be really cool to add, I would do that here. Now, one of the things that I want to watch is that I need to make sure that it is following all of my commands. I'm going to ask it, please show me what instructions you're going to follow for step 6 so that I know you understand what is required before we move on to writing out the content. Now, why am I doing that? Often Claude fails to give me my 6 beats in numbered format. So I want to know that Claude is understanding what all of those are. I am telling Claude to give me everything that it understands about what I'm asking for him to do. So here it is, write a 6-paragraph beat outline from the POV of the character with the most at stake. Make sure each summary begins with a hook and ends with a cliffhanger. Include the date, time, character, setting without repetition. Without repetition is really huge because otherwise Claude just keeps repeating itself. Include the day, time, characters, and setting without repetition. Structure the beats to follow the Blake Snyder beat sheet for the catalyst debate. Break into Act 2. We want to add the save the cat moment when appropriate. I'm going to list out a few more things here as we go. Make sure time flows quick. This is a fast-paced story that takes place anywhere from hours to days, not weeks or months. Let's see what else we have here. Facilitate attraction between the protagonist and a love interest. Okay, so I didn't have a love interest at first, but I'm okay with that. We can have a side love thread. That's okay. That'll probably be our B story. Use drivers, guardrails, and focus points to guide the narrative. Okay, so now since I said, A and B story, let's say in addition, identify all stories, the story A, B, C, and beyond in the chapter summaries. Now, why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I want to know exactly how many different threads I have moving along. And that's another thing that you can do. After you get done fleshing all of the beats and everything out for your story, you can ask for Claude to give you a breakdown of all of your story threads, your story A, story B, story, C, what exactly does it entail and where it comes into play, what chapter and beat. And you can also ask it when it is resolved. So those are all some really cool record keeping things that you can do that will help keep you organized. You can also ask for Claude to give you a list of open threads. So as soon as a thread opens, you can ask that thread to be listed for you before you ever write prose so that you know when a thread is opened And you can also ask for when it is going to be resolved so that you can kind of look at those two lists and make sure that you're not leaving something undone. Now, of course, can you rely on Claude 100% to catch things and give you information 100% correct all the time? No, because it is still an AI that is in its infant stages. Even though the AI can do so much for you today as a resource, it still lacks in areas and it needs a heavy hand when it comes to managing the way that your story flows. So let's see what else it's asking for. Now, smooth transitions are really important. We need that to happen between each chapter. We need to incorporate character details from, the provided list, which Claude has, and focus on the main events, mysteries, and plot progression. So I'm going to tell it, yes, those all sound great. And then, so I said, those are solid directions. Also, I want it to add additional information. I'm going to go ahead and submit this and see where that takes us. It's either going to summarize or start giving me my chapters. So let's see which direction it goes. Okay, so it's listing out the other items that I asked for it to do. And it says, I appreciate you taking the time to ensure I understand the full requirements before drafting. I want to make sure I have all the details straight before writing the outline. So now I'm going to ask Claude to please proceed with writing the outline. So I stated, please proceed with writing the outline as instructed. Now, once Claude writes out my outline, that is an area where I would spend quite a bit of time looking at it and making sure that I was okay with all the beats that were given. Anywhere where there might be vague content or an area that I had a question about, then I would either need to go in and instruct Claude to add information that I want added in there that I maybe give Claude myself, or I could explore that specific vague information with Claude and we could come up with an idea together. But again, that would require me to go back and forth with Claude, and I would do that with every single chapter. And I would make sure that it was really tight. Whatever happened in, like, say, chapter 5, and what happened at that cliffhanger, I'd want to make sure that when chapter 6 started, that I knew exactly where that content was going. Now, one of the things that I'm looking at here is that I can see who my characters are, but it's not telling me the POV character. I don't know whose POV this is supposed to be in. So that is one area that Claude failed to provide. Now, this is interesting. Why does it say, okay, chapter 8? Oh, I just misread. Chapter 9, picking up the pieces. So that is day 8. So I confused chapter 9 and day 8. Okay, so it's still giving me morning. Now, one of the things that you have to be careful of with a whole bunch of mornings and midnight is that you may end up having a whole lot of sun shining through everywhere, and you might have a lot of the moon shining everywhere. So if you don't want that, that would be another command that you would give Claude to say, avoid using comments about the moon that become repetitive or about the sun. Show the story unfolding in vivid imagery and description, and show the character living in the world that's created. And you do that because you don't want every single one of your scenes to start with the sun dipping or rising. Now, I did ask for 15 chapters, which it did for me. So it aims to satisfy. So let's go back and tell it that it did not give me the POV character. You did well, but you forgot to list the POV character for each chapter. So let's see what it does now. And again, I would go through every single one of these and make sure that if I had any question on here and I was unsure about the direction something was going, then you know what? I would have to go back and provide that information if I were writing it. So I need to make sure that I direct the AI, and the AI understands that also. So as you can see, I now have POV characters. This is an ensemble cast, and it's trying to give me Evie and Gray, and then it's listing other characters. So what I'm going to do is ask for the AI to change that and only do alternating chapters between the protagonist and the love interest, the protagonist to take the odd chapters and the love interest to take the even. The chapter outline. Now write the outline reflecting all changes. Let's see if Claude can follow through. Now, what's weird here is that sometimes when you do this with Claude, inadvertently, there's almost always something that Claude forgets. So if Claude remembers, it's actually pretty cool when he actually remembers. But as you can see, it is not giving me that information. So let me know if this revised outline with alternating POVs satisfies. No, it does not. No, it doesn't. I need you to write out all chapter, including the beats for each. Make any changes needed to ensure the alternating POV chapters follow the assigned POV character. Now I'm going to remind it again that Evie has the odd chapters and Aaron has the even. And that's interesting because if you think about it, Aaron is the individual who's kind of trying to push her forward into a completely different direction with becoming a healer soldier. So that could add for a lot of conflict internally and external. So let's go ahead and have it rewrite everything. So now we see the POV character. We have Evie as the POV. Now, what did it forget? It forgot the list of characters, but that's okay because we can prompt it in the next list. And we do have our original list earlier that had all of it, but this is what I mean about chat will sometimes forget to add all details in, and you have to keep reminding chat or Claude. One of the other things that Claude will do is, you can keep prompting over and over again and asking for Claude to add in this information. But if you know that you're going to go from this step to another step that's going to break it out even further, like right now, I'm asking for 6 main primary beats to be added into each chapter. In one of my other steps, I'm going to break out each one of these chapter summaries that has 6 beats into, say, 14 beats. And I do that because then I can take those beats and have the system generate prose. Now, again, I would read through all of these beats and I would make sure that everything in those beats was ironclad and that I didn't have any questions. Now here, there's a ring, a crater ring with ancient standing stones. Well, you know what? I'd want to know more about those stones. Where do they come from? How long have people known about them? So that's all stuff that I would want to know. Here we have Zoe proposes using the evidence to expose the Academy's secrets. Well, what evidence? I would need to know what that evidence is before it is written so that I can guide the AI. If I don't specify what that evidence is, then I leave that open to interpretation, and the AI may go into a path that I don't want it to go, and it might seem like the AI goes off the rails, but you know what? That would be my fault because I didn't give it enough information on what that evidence looks like. And, it's going to expose the Academy's secret. Well, what is the Academy's secret? I can assume that it has something to do with the ancient healers and how it's a kept secret. But yeah, you shouldn't assume because the AI could take that anywhere and take liberties and do, who knows what to your story. So when you see your story really going off the rails, sometimes it is because there is vague information like this that you need to make sure that you are giving direct information on. You need to flesh this stuff out. So Aaron's going to retreat through a portal to the Demon King's realm. That's pretty cool. What does the Demon King's realm even look like? So again, this is why you need to go through all of your beats because, I didn't see anywhere in there earlier that there was a Demon King's realm. I would need to know more about this realm and who this demon is, and is it one of the is the Demon King the antagonist? So I would need more information. If I were to go in and start writing prose with the AI with this, I would not be happy because it might go off the rail, and it would be my fault as a writer because I'm not directing my AI resource, making sure that I'm fleshing everything out. Now, Erin knows Evie's compassion can be used against her. That's really vague. Well, how can it be used against her? What's the plan? How are they going to do this? So again, make sure that you are being specific. Now, for the sake of time, because I can't go in and flesh every single beat out. I can point some things out, but I can't flesh them all out here 100%. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next step. Now, the little bit of changes that you've seen me make today, again, is probably not even 5% of what I normally do. I do a lot of interaction when I am writing a story, but I am a plotter planner by nature, and I need to know exactly what happens in my story from beginning to end. It is not uncommon for me to have, say, a 15,000 to 25,000 word outline with broken out beats for one of my stories that might be, say, anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 words finished. So again, I do have really long outlines, and I had those outlines like that even prior to starting to use AI as a resource. So I just take my normal process that I had before, and I found a way to kind of ingrain that inside of using AI as a resource. So let's take a look at what step 7 looks like. So step 7, the AI has said, okay, it's 14 numbered beats for each summary, including chapter details, voice tones, motivations. Here's the beat 1. Well, I feel that it has failed to do some specific stuff. Now, I do have the tones here, and I like that, but there are a lot of other things that are being missed. So let me show you some of the things that are being missed in number 7. So let's go down and take a look at 7. So here's the numbered beats, TV drama style opening and cliffhangers. I want to make sure that the Myers-Briggs are still there. I want to know that all of my characters' attributes are there, their strengths, weakness, motivations, obstacles, their goals are all there. I want to make sure that there are seamless transitions. I need each chapter to flow into the next. I need there to be settings, tone, and location. I want the AI to apply drivers and guardrails. I want to make sure that all of this information is done. And so I'm going to grab this information, and I'm going to go back, and I am going to ask the AI to go ahead and add that, and to not forget the POV character. Please ensure you are adhering to the instructions. And it's important for the AI to adhere to these, because those 14 beats are what you're going to write your prose off of. So you want to get it as tight as possible so that, once you go in and start making changes to it, that you start with the best possible raw data and be able to kind of massage it into what you're looking for. So I want Claude to list the POV chapter for each character, the tropes and themes. The tropes, let's see, the tropes, themes, motifs used along with, what do we have? The setting and the character list, with the setting, day, time of day, and character list. Let's also say in the future, avoid describing the time of day with repeat information about the sun or moon. So let's see what it does now. Now, once you get it actually generating the way that you want it, then you can ask it to generate all 15 of your chapters, or maybe 30, however many chapters you want. Now, as you can see, this gives me a little bit more information. It gives me chapter 1 beats. It gives me the POV character. It gives me the themes, the setting. It did not give me the motifs or the symbolism. It did not give me the tropes, but chances are I might find some of that inside of here, inside of the actual beat themselves. So there's apprehension, shocked, tone. So I'm going to ask, did you wrap the tropes and themes into the beats and what happened to all the guardrails. So I'm also asking what happened to all the guardrail drivers and focus points of each beat. Now, why are those important? Because those give the AI extra added instructions at the beat level. And it's important to have some of that content so that the AI knows exactly how to write what it is that you're looking for. So again, he did not successfully incorporate that. Now let's see if it did. So we have a focus, Evie's emotional state. We have a driver for 2. We have guardrails for 3. We have a theme for 4. So now that I have this information, now I would want to go in, make sure that the AI is following all of my orders. And as each one of these is written, I could go in and continue to go back and forth with Claude and make sure that it is 100% fleshed out the way that I want it. But again, that would take a long time, and this video is already much longer than I had anticipated. So let's just go ahead and go with writing the rest of the chapters. So I'm telling it to please continue writing chapters 2 through 15, following the same format, and to not forget to add the hooks and cliffhangers for each chapter. That is one area I really need it to focus on, because we don't want the book to end with a really nice, comfy area for the reader to close the book at the end of the chapter. We want that chapter to end on a cliffhanger that makes the reader want to know what happens next. We want to drive the reader forward. So now it is beginning to show me the themes, the tropes, the symbolism. I don't have the motifs, so maybe they're put in here somewhere. But again, it's not giving me, it's failing to give me what I asked. Notice it's only 6. So let's see, what did I ask it? I'm going to ask it again. Keep in mind, let's see, we start over on step 7 and write chapters 1 through 15. Keep in mind, you must follow all instructions. I want it to follow the same format. Let's see what it has done. So I'm happy to revise chapter 2 and 3. Well, it didn't do what I wanted. Please start over on step 7 and write the 14 beats for each chapter. This is for chapter 1 through 15. Let's see what it does. So again, this is where I tell you, you have to keep prompting it, because Claude does not always follow direction. And as you just saw, it was giving me my 14 beats just fine a while ago, and now it reverted back to like step 7 instead of, where we were at with step 7. It was trying to give me step 6 again. So it still didn't put the guardrails in here, but it is layering some of my content in here. Now, I could go in and continue to ask for specific information, but because of time constraints, I'm just going to ask it to please continue writing beats 14 for each chapter with guardrails, focus points, and drivers for chapters 2 through 15. Follow all directions of step 7 as indicated. Now, I generally like to do this kind of stuff in the evening because I feel like maybe Claude and GPT do better, or maybe it's just me in general because I am just not a morning person. Right now it is 12 noon Central Standard Time where I'm at. I generally start all of my writing or plotting. I tend to like to do that, I'd say anytime after 9 p.m. Central until about 4 in the morning. So maybe it's just because I'm a night owl. So this is chapter 2, and it's gone to chapter 3. It's giving me all of the different characters. It is giving me the setting, the symbolism. I know who my POV character is. It is still not pinpointing my focus points and that type of content, but I could ask, once it is finished generating all of this, I could ask it to give me a chapter report that includes all of my characters, the POV character's name for each chapter. I could ask it to give me what the guardrails, drivers, and hooks are for each chapter, and it would actually give me a list. So I could even ask it for a settings list. So anything that you may want to list on, you can always ask for that once you are done if you feel that there's something that you need more information on. And as you can see, it is giving me all 14. It is starting with a hook, and it is ending with what Claude is stating is a cliffhanger, but I would pay special attention to how each one of your chapters starts with that first beat and how it ends, because Claude doesn't always give you a hook or a cliffhanger. And so sometimes you need to maybe change some of that. Now, if you notice that some of your beats are just really short, but they're extremely lean and have action in it, then I wouldn't worry about those because the AI can move forward. What I would be worried about is Evie sees now that she ignored red flags and warning signs. Okay, well, how did she see that? What brought her to that? This comment right here is too vague, and I would need something specific here. That would push me toward revising that beat. Number 11 would also do that. She is hurt most not by Aaron's lies, but by her willingness to believe them. So again, if those lies were not established and I don't know fully what those lies are, then I would need to flesh that out and know that. 10 talks about realizes she betrayed her own morals. Well, how did she betray her own morals, that brought her to feeling ashamed? I need to flesh all of that out. If I don't understand where all of that is coming from, how can I expect the AI to understand that? And that's where, if you're using Story Engine through pseudo-write, those are some of the areas that could actually cause looping or the AI to hallucinate, because the AI doesn't have enough information there. So keep that in mind whenever you're going in to tighten up your beats. So here on this beat 11 for chapter 8, it talks about that he is kind of becoming familiar with the possession on beat 11, and he's learning to tap into, that dark magic. Well, what does that look like? How is he becoming used to it? I need more information there. And if I am unsure about what that means, then how can I expect the AI to write it? I am the one that's in charge of making sure that that information is not vague. Same thing with number 3. They sense his ambition and desire for vengeance. They who? Who is sensing that? Demons? I don't know, the ants on the floor? I need to make sure that I understand who they is. It's too vague. So again, make sure you're fleshing these beats out. And I would actually go through every single beat. And this is what I do. I ask those questions. Who's in the beat? What's happening? Is the goal clear? Is there anything vague? Are there any questions that remain open-ended that I need an answer to? If so, then you know what? I better be ironing that out, because again, I can't expect the AI to be able to write to what I want if I'm not given the AI direction. And that is my job, to direct the AI, not have the AI direct me. So let's see how far down. We just stopped on chapter 12, beat 8. So let's go ahead and say continue to write out the content for step 7 for chapter 12, beat 8, and then continue until finished with chapter 15, following the same format. Now we are pretty close, and hopefully it will not stop us before we get to writing the prose for step 8. Step 8 is pretty intricate because with step 8, there are a couple of different JSON prompts that we're going to be using to be able to flesh out the story even further. Now, again, I would not actually move on to step 8 until I had gone through every single one of these beats within each chapter and made sure that they are strong, lean, solid beats that move the story forward and do not contain anything vague or something that could confuse the AI. So right now it is writing out 14, and it is starting with 15. Oh, so the academy is shut down and the students are freed. So it's kind of wrapping everything up on chapter 15. And one thing that you could do is weave in an ending to be a cliffhanger that could allude to the next book, which would be book 2. So you can definitely do that. Now, I could revise this to say revise chapter 15 to allude to the problem that will occur in book 2 to ensure that the reader understands that the story continues. I'm not going to do that today, but that is something that you can do in your writing. So let's go over and take a look. One of the things that I like to do is have my own like little prompts that I use for my questions. And if you notice that when I say to proceed to step 8, there is specific information that I have here that I want the AI to follow. So again, in addition to all the steps, I want it to follow some additional content. So I'm going to copy this response and I'm going to go ahead and paste it here. It's telling it to proceed to step 8, following all JSON steps, and write the prose for chapter 1. And I'm going to change this from strides to beat because I used this for something else yesterday. And let's do 1 and 2, following all JSON prompts. Now, why do I tell it to follow it here and follow it here? I'm doing it in 2 places because sometimes Claude does not pay attention, and sometimes the power of 2 or power of 3 tends to work. I'm also going to tell it down here at the bottom to do the same thing. I want it to make sure that it's following all the instructions. Let's see how well it follows. Telling it to proceed with step 8, follow all the JSON steps, write the prose for only chapter 1, beats 1 and 2. I want it to follow all of that stuff in step 8 for the prose creation. I've also asked it to write the chapter prose in active dialogue, avoid passive voice. Now, if you notice here, I am asking it to make sure that it's adding dialogue. One thing that I found with Claude, that if I do not prompt it to give me some descriptive, vivid imagery and descriptions along with dialogue to engage the content, I tend to have very flat writing. So let's see what this gives us. I'm going to copy this because I'm going to want to use it again. So again, Claude is really thinking. Hopefully Claude is going through and looking at the detailed instructions. If it does not follow the information, then I may do the same thing that I did in one of the other beats. And I may ask it to provide, the information on it. Now, the night sky was moonless. Now, remember what I said about the content always having something about the moon or the sun? If you start to see that, just add that to your prompt, telling it that you don't want it to add that stuff repetitively. Let's see. So I'm going to add here, don't repeat information beat to beat about the sun or moon. Use a variety of sentence starters. Let's take a look at how long this is. I'm going to copy this again, just so that I can take a look at this information. Beat 1 and beat 2. Now, could they be longer? Those look pretty short. I'm going to tell Claude to make those longer. Revise and write with more sensory details to expand these beats. Keep the content around 1,000 words. Let's see what that does for us. Now, I notice that on any given day, whenever I'm writing, sometimes Claude will give me really long, really fleshed out content. And then other times Claude will give me very dense content that's short. So when that happens and it's not as active as you want, then prompt the AI to give you more content. Okay, I did ask for more sentence variation, but you notice I have I rubbed, I sighed. The AI is using some filter words, and that is one area that I would like to see the AI really focus on. And as you see at the bottom, I have 10 messages remaining until 2 p.m., which means I will have 9 after this one. Let's take a look. So I do have dialogue. I do want it to go ahead and continue to write a few more of these. So I'm going to ask it to write 3 and 4. Let's tell it to avoid using filters that show action, that tell action, I want it to avoid filters that tell the action instead of showing it. So let's see if the AI understands that. Sometimes it can kind of understand what filter and filler words are, but for the most part, it gets a little bit confused with that. Now, the other cool thing that I found here is that if you tell the AI to write something with internal dialogue or internal thought with that deeper POV and italics, you can actually get Claude to do that. Let me show you. So also write all internal POV, internal thoughts and dialogue in italics. Again, it is having I sat, I spent. Also, avoid starting back-to-back sentences and paragraphs with a pronoun and a verb. This is filters that make the content read passive, write actively to show the action unfolding in real time. One thing I want to point out to you is that I might start with a really, really short prompt and it might work. But as you see today, my little short prompt that I have used prior, I keep having to add content to it over and over again. Here, I could change this to write maybe 800 to 1200 words for a total of 1600. Now, of course, it's not going to write that much, but I want the AI to know that I'm wanting more words. Let's go ahead and copy this. Let's see where that takes us. And again, if you see that there is a certain story element that is not being adhered to, add that in your comment to it when you're telling it to write the next beats. I did ask it to do beats 1 and 2 of chapter 1 again because I don't feel that it's strong enough. Take a look here. I have internal thoughts. It did give me the night sky content again, but hopefully moving forward, it won't keep giving me that. But as you can see, the content is longer, it is more fleshed out, and I'm actually happier with these beats. They are longer, there's more detail. We have what the mom has prepared, the golden chicken, baking crispy. We have a reassuring squeeze on the mother's giving the daughter. There's some smiling going on. We have more internal thought right here up above where I just highlighted. Don't believe everything she says. Moms are required to say stuff like that. Now, if you don't like that, you can always prompt the AI not to give you that. I'm going to go up and I think I'm going to grab that prompt again, because I actually kind of like it. This same prompt, if I work again later tonight, it may work or it may not, and I might have to come up with a new way to direct the AI. There's no right or wrong way to direct, and the prompt that works right now in the moment may not work later on. So you're constantly going to be changing up a little bit of your prompt. You can start with a basic one, but know that every time you see that the AI is messing up something, you need to prompt the AI to fix that. So let's see what beat 1 and 2, an alternate version of it is. And then I'll move on to 3 and 4. But as you can see, you can actually do beats this way. And you can write 1 beat at a time, 2 beats at a time, 4 beats at a time. You are the one who is controlling how this content is written. And there you go. You have her, it's nighttime. Again, you get to see how it opens up again. You see that she has her internal thought again. So it is adhering to that. So once this stops, we're going to do beats 3 and 4. This time, the mother gave her shoulder a reassuring squeeze as they sat. It kind of followed the same line of her thought in the prior one. Now, I'm not crazy about eventually her drifting off into an uneasy sleep because that's really not enough of a hook. So I could just take all this off and end it with either don't believe everything she says, moms have to talk like that, or I would just end it with out loud, I said, I want to believe I'm just a late bloomer. That would be a better ending than having the stuff that I highlighted. I would so kill this stuff right here. Now let's see what beats 3 and 4 do with the longer details. Now, keep in mind, not only is the AI looking at what I have right here in this little paragraph, but it's also taken a look at my JSON steps that are also directing it. I wish that the AI would follow commands 100% of the time, all the time. There are times when it seems to follow instructions better than others. For me, it seems to be late at night, I'd say between like 8 and 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It seems to work better for me anyway. So here we're having more of the morning light stream through the curtain. So it is ignoring my content on that. So I would actually have to kill that. Now, one of the other things that I want to show you before I conclude today is I want to show you how you could take these same beats that you just used, especially if you make them really, really active beats. I want to show you how you can actually go in and say, write chapter 1, beats 1 through 6 in script format, or even just beats 1 and 2, or 1 through 4, or, any combination therein. Now, I would not recommend asking it to write the whole chapter unless you see that it's writing really lengthy content, because then it'll try to summarize stuff or it will leave content out. So I'm just going to ask for 1 through 4, and I am going to ask it to cap the name of characters when first introduced, as well as all sounds. Now, you can also ask for things like making sure that it is void of a deeper POV, because this is not a novel, so you shouldn't have a deeper POV or internal thoughts in here. You should only, in a script for like a film or pilot, you should only have action lines. So let's see. We also want it to cap the name of the characters when first introduced. We want to give unique descriptions of the characters along with age. And let's see what that does. Now, I'm not using a JSON for that. I'm just strictly using just this basic little prompt right here. I do have some script writing prompts that I use, but I want to show you with just minimal prompting that you can actually get the AI to write content in script format. So here it introduced Eve, and it gave her last name, how old she is, where she's at. Now it's showing that she's glancing anxiously. So you can definitely show that in a bed, but you have to be really careful that you don't get too wordy in your narrative. So she's trying to see if she has any magic at all. She's hoping to have magic. It shows here is her mother. Her mother was first introduced, and it's showing her mother bustling around the kitchen. Early happy birthday. Later on, she's in her bedroom, and you notice that it only capped her name once when she was first introduced. The clock beeps, and that is a sound, so it is capped. Now, if I wanted it to continue, I could go ahead and take this content right here, what I used as a little prompt, and I could ask it to now do, let's see, 5 through 8. Now, I could ask it, if I see that there's a really huge gap, I could ask it to transition. But for the most part, I find that it transitions pretty well in my script writing. Now, I definitely have to add some stuff because some of the dialogue is kind of on the nose. And even whenever I tell Claude or GPT to not write dialogue on the nose and to use subtext, sometimes it will, sometimes it doesn't. But as a writer, it is your job when you extract the information and you add it into your first, final draft or whatever script writing software you use. It is your job once you start editing to make sure that you're making things as condensed and lean and concise as possible, and that you are showing all of the action. And I can definitely tell you that I can copy this content here, and it actually keeps the format. So if I copy all of this and plug it into Final Draft, a script writing software, it keeps all of the format for me, which is huge. GPT-4 and also 3.5 will also keep the formatting. Jasper keeps the formatting. Notion keeps the formatting, but I've not had a lot of success with prompting Notion for script. And of course, GPT-4 does really well with scripts. And I can also copy what GPT-4 produces, and I can plug that into, script writing software as well, and it keeps the structure. Pseudo-write in its proper form in the document will actually generate script that I can copy and paste into my script writing software, as does Story Engine, which is another part of pseudo-write. So just about every AI that I've played with, I can actually flip beats into a script and then copy that and put it into script writing software. So that concludes what I had set out to show you today. And that, my literary pioneers, is how we manifest a middle grade or young adult novel from the nebula of our ideas. Regardless if you're a novice wordsmith or a veteran voyager, remember that persistence is your most vital fuel source. Each epic tale begins as a single star in the vast galaxies of ideas. So ignite your creative engines and let them blaze a trail. If you found this stellar guidance beneficial, please hit that like button as though you're firing the thrusts of a starship. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss any of our transmissions. Queries, prophecies, messages for your fellow space travelers. Leave a comment below and we'll ensure you're not alone on this voyage. Make sure to share our channel with your fellow writers. In the cosmos, unity is strength. Also, consider joining the ranks of the AI Writers Connection Discord group. There, you'll encounter a thriving collective of like-minded scribes, ready to exchange ideas, share wisdom, and offer you a cosmic boost when you need it the most. Until next time, remember, in the cosmic dance of creation, your pen is your most potent force. Now, go forth and bring your fictional universe to life. Happy writing.